Hey everybody, welcome to eChannel News. We've got two gentlemen. We'll talk about what happened in RSA, but also, what's going on in this world of AI. The bad actors are way ahead of the crowd sometimes, and seems like the only way we're going to get ahead of them is to leverage AI. So we've got Ori Bendet. He's a VP in product management at Checkmarx, and we've got Itamar Golan, I believe, CEO of Prompt Security. And we'll talk to these two gentlemen about what they think of what's going on in this world of security and AI. Welcome, Itamar and Ori. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Julian, for having us.
Pleasure. Itamar,
Happy
good?
to be here. I'm good. Thanks for inviting us. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
All right. Well, let's jump into this. So obviously you went to RSA, and I've talked to a lot of people who went to RSA, and they just like, wow, it's like everybody sounds the same, look the same, bigger, better, whatever. What's your impression? Ori, maybe you go first.
Sure, thanks. So I think I would touch 2 points. One is the fact that, I've been in RSA for several years now. I think we are kind of back to pre-COVID numbers. This year it was hectic, a lot of traction, customers, vendors, everyone really back to pre-COVID, jumping between meetings. A lot of customers are having new challenges or the same challenges at a higher scale. So this is the first thing, the demand and the craziness is back to normal, which is a good thing for everyone. And on the other side, obviously AI. If you walk the floor, every booth, if not every second booth, was something with AI. It was either AI protection, AI security, powered by AI, the AI platform. So this is, and also this week, I'm in the Gartner Summit, and it's very similar. Okay, so and this is like the main thing that you have to have, or at least know what is your plans around AI, because the adoption is the fastest that I've ever seen.
And Ori, I think you'd probably agree, whether you do AI good or bad, it doesn't really matter anymore. You've got to have AI into your playbook. And a lot of people out there is just like, I'm AI, but AI what? You know what I mean? It's a buzzword. Itamar, what's your take on RSA this year?
Actually, Ori stole my two main bullets.
Okay.
It was literally, I think the main event, as Ori said, it's like before COVID. Any conference in the last, I think, 4 years wasn't as it was like before. And everyone went to RSA with pretty low expectations, and were surprised. The velocity of people, the traction, the energy, it was very productive and very interesting. And of course, intensified by the hype, as you said, of AI, either by the fluffy messaging around AI, which everybody is using, and also by some more, let's say, essential stuff with AI. Companies that literally making new features, new deliveries using AI that they couldn't deliver before. And also companies like Prompt, but we are not the only one, that are trying to mitigate and to address the new attack surface created by AI. And everything is like advancing in a pace we've never seen before. We have a joke internally here in Prompt that we need to build stuff in 1 week that in the past, I worked before in Orca Security and Checkpoint, we had like 6 months. But right now you need to deliver all the time, because before you would even notice, OpenAI will change something so dramatically that you didn't expect for it before. So indeed, pre-COVID days and AI is the new player in town.
It's funny enough, our event as well that we did last week, we're finally back to pre-COVID numbers as well. It seems like we needed 3 years, roughly, before everybody can kind of get back to this normal. So I think that number is probably going to go down in infamy, that humans need 3 years to recover from some crazy disaster. But moving on. So AI, so just give me a bit of a background. First of all, we start with Checkmarx about your company and just a brief overview of what you guys do, and then we'll spin into prompt.
Okay, awesome. So in general, Checkmarx is the cloud native application security testing or solution platform. We cover everything during development, from static analysis of source code, open source, infrastructure as code, containers, everything else. So we do everything. We help prevent during development phase. This is what it's called, application security. Specifically on AI, we look at it from three folds. One is the fact that the developer workflow is changing. If in the past it was mostly manual code generation written by humans, by developer, by software engineers, we now see that with Copilot, with GPT, developers are going to use that, if not already, to generate more code. So this is the first thing. The second is new types of attacks. I'm sure that the audience heard about AI hallucination, prompt injection, the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, and so on and so on. So how can we help our customers, first of all, be aware, and second, also have the tools to prevent those new types of attacks? And as Itamar said, we see new attacks every week because adoption is crazy. And the third thing is how we can actually take and embed AI solutions inside our platform to help accelerate the journey of our customers. So these are the three folds that we look at AI inside Checkmarx.
Got it. And the reality today is that it used to be, we'd have these applications developed by anybody out there, and we take them, we'll plug them into the companies, and we never check the source code. We don't know where the developers got the source code, or where the developers of the developers got the source code, and where they're copy pasting and all that stuff. And it's now becoming critical, because if your applications are not, from a cyber first perspective, right, then you could be uploading code into your company that is just open doors and open windows for bad actors to get in. Just one question before I jump to Itamar. Are you seeing a kind of an uptick in how the bad actors are leveraging applications to sort of weasel their way into the networks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from even before AI, 2022, 2023 was the kind of the years of malicious open source attacks. Our team was able to identify over 250,000 known to be malicious open source packages. We've seen the recent attacks that was found. So yeah, I mean, even before AI, hackers are always getting sophisticated with intelligence attacks, and they are always one step ahead of us. And now with AI, it's crazy because enterprises don't even have time to assess. I've seen customers and also seen even governments completely block the technology because they want to, let's stop for a second and evaluate. However, for a business, for an enterprise, I never recommend blocking, because technology will always find a way in. So it's really about assessing and understanding the risk before taking it to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I was a bad actor, and I'm not, I would be able to create, these source codes out there and just wait until some whatever embeds it into their application. It's sort of like, you go to the ocean or the lake, and you drop like 10 fishing rods in, and you just wait until you get a nibble in one, and oh, I'm gonna go get that one, right? So it's sort of like makes so much common sense. So Itamar, tell me about prompt security.
So Prompt Security essentially is an AI security company with a very straightforward premise. AI is something that you must adopt in order to stay competitive and relevant and ahead of the curve. So it's not a question of if, like Ori said, you cannot block it. Either people will find a way to use it, or maybe even worse, you would stay behind, like business-wise. So if we understand that AI is a mandatory thing to do in the new era, you need a way to adopt it safely and securely. For our platform, essentially, across the board, from the employee side, using Shadow AI like ChatGPT, to R&D and product, building new co-pilots. We are covering all of those AI initiatives and infrastructures, making sure you have the visibility and the policy enforced, protecting you from more conservative stuff like shadow AI and sensitive data leaks. If you don't want your sensitive data and confidential data arriving to ChatGPT-like application, but also protecting the GenAI apps you build from new threats we both created in the OWASP top 10 list, like prompt injection and jailbreaks and harmful responses. So basically one platform to secure the adoption of AI.
You know, Itamar, it feels like we've entered this new, well, obviously it's I call the new era of AI, right? It's a brand new era we're entering, and no one really knows what's going on. All we know it's going to impact our lives in some way. And we're hoping, you know, that it's going to be in a good way. And depending on who you talk to, it's on the spectrum, you know? So we've got to figure out, you know, how that's going to work. What are you seeing, Itamar, in terms of how folks are adopting AI? I mean, I know some nightmare stories of how people are just using it and it's making their companies instantly vulnerable to the world. And we actually did a talk on this about privacy issues and AI. And the one thing we came away with is that AI is a one-way street. It goes up and it never comes back down. And two, there's no delete key. You can't say oopsie doopsie, you know? Can you bring it back to me? There's no crawlback. What's your take on the adoption of AI and what you think how companies are implementing or leveraging AI today?
Yeah, 100%. The deletion part is crucial because some of the people are trying to see some similarities between data leakage to AI and data leakage to previous SaaS and websites and tools, but it's not the same. AI is good and getting better due to the inherent fact that the LLMs behind the scenes are being trained on data. It needs data, and if your data will be the training data for the future AI model, your confidential data will be embedded in the model's weights, and there is no delete key, like you've said. So you have a much more incentive to make sure that your IP is not getting there. On the same breath, employees have much more incentive to use it because it's super useful. You can write code 10 times faster or better. You can revise mail and marketing stuff in a much more efficient way. And it's all across the board: marketing, finance, developers, R&D, any department, its corresponding AI tool. So people are much more sharing data with much more riskier tools. So the problem is real and it's there. And I see, to speak frankly, two main modes of companies, two different creatures. One is saying, like Ori mentioned, we are blocking it. And it's pretty bizarre because you cannot block it. You don't even know what is shadow AI. It's much broader than ChatGPT. We in Prompt detect on a daily basis, only on our customer base, 35 new GenAI apps every day.
35.
So you need to know about it. Yeah, you need to know about them in order to block them. So that's one. Second, the business and the CEO and the board, everybody are pushing you to accelerate processes, especially in that market, to increase efficiency, to reduce resources. So you must adopt it. So the blocking is not an option. But the other creature of the companies are saying, okay, we cannot control the beast, so we let you use it. But then we have all of those pre-mentioned risks we've just covered. So you need to find like a midway in between, which on one end takes the advantages of AI, but without compromising too much the company security posture and confidential data, etc.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that, I mean, trying to not use AI today is sort of like, I don't know, let's not use the internet. So it's sort of like, I don't even think that debate is arguable anymore. And you're so right. I mean, humans today are expected to do more with less, and we're only, we only have so much life, and energy and mental capacity. And like you said, you have to produce things in a week that normally would take 6 months, and that's stressful. And I don't even know how it's possible to keep the pace up, right? Unless you leverage AI to help us, in a way, us mere mortals, to become a bit superhuman. Because I believe the bad actors are just looking at this and go, hey, look at what they've done for us, they're helping even the weaker bad actors to be able to look even better and become more effective. Ori, what do you bring to the table to help companies sort of like put a smart lid, let's say, in how you manage the AI world?
So before that, I want to add on top of what Itamar said. I think that today there is kind of like, if you heard or read on the Air Canada incident, I think it's a really remarkable example of how companies, as Itamar said, has the need to quickly adopt and implement, but then they don't understand the implications. Like with Air Canada, they said, but it's not us, it's the AI. But there is no AI of us. Once you put it in your website, in your customer service, you are responsible for that, right? And this is, I think, one area that
it's like saying it's not mine, it's it's the code.
It works on my machine. It's kind of on my website it works, but it's the AI. So I mean, consumers and nobody cares. If you put it, it's you need to be responsible for that, including all the hallucination and stuff. And this is actually what happened with the Air Canada incident. And by the way, they lost, not to pick on Air Canada, but I think it's a great, just one example that I learned.
We can pick on Air Canada, and at the end of the day, the lawyer is going to make sure that things are right. So the lawyers are involved in AI and cyber now, and to a very deep degree. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you implement AI and you haven't thought it through far and deep enough, the consequences are real, and you can't blame it on AI, because I believe AI, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they have any empathy or emotions called AI empathy and emotion.
Not yet, at least, not yet.
No, well, no, please, no. All right, let's just skip over that part.
Yeah.
So back to Ori, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, to your original point, I mean, we look at AI and we believe that from an application security, application development, you need to have layers of protection. You need to protect it right at the source when the code is being generated. And this is why in RSA, we announced a capability to scan GitHub's Copilot generated code right when it is being generated, helping you prevent any malicious code or AI hallucination that might cause as part of that code generation, right at the IDEs for developers. And then on top of that, we have the traditional DevSecOps solutions that can scan your entire code, whether it's an AI generated code or not. So this is how we build and we add, and also the partnership that we had with Prompt, because today, and we started and we talked about RSA, AI security means a lot of things to a lot of people. And I'm sure that if you will ask a room full of security professionals, you will find 50 different answers on what is AI security. And this is why we decided, and we're happy to partner with Prompt, because there is limited things to what any vendor can cover. And this is where, Prompt can help our customers, our joint customers, add another layer of protection. And with Prompt, it's around code leakage, which is one of the top 3 challenges that CISOs face today when implementing AI. How can they make sure that their developers don't leak any code, specifically around developers, but also around the rest of the company? Like, if my HR or the finance team have pasted sensitive information to GPT, this is a risk to the CEO, by the way, not even the CISO. So this is one.
Yeah, when they make mistakes these days, CISOs go to jail, but it's a whole different conversation. So Itamar, when you look at the, how you work with with Checkmarx. What are some of the things that without this partnership, right? Companies will become more vulnerable in what they're doing. What is the thing exactly are you helping these companies to manage and protect?
A good question. In general, as I said, we are covering multiple use cases, both in the endpoint side around employees and both in the AppSec, more around the GenAI apps the R&D is building. With Checkmarx, we took primarily the code leakage, like among the cloud of different categories of confidential data that could be leaked. I think that code is something very proprietary to a lot of organizations. And by the way, Amazon just released an article, I think a few weeks ago, that they found that ChatGPT-like applications are generating code that is too much similar to their proprietary repositories.
Plagiarism.
So that's the pain we are. That's the pain we are solving together with Checkmarx. I think that these partnerships can do two marvelous things, which precisely touching the idea or the importance behind AI. On one end, we let the developers adopt AIs like GitHub Copilot and GitLab Duo and all of those AI-powered code assistants in order to write code faster and better and to accelerate the whole R&D's roadmap. But in the same breath, let's make sure that we have the control around it. Let's make sure that nothing like AWS access key is being leaked to the third-party server. Let's make sure that no developer is copying the code from the IDE, from the Visual Studio Code and pasting it into Gemini or ChatGPT. And suddenly, 2 months later, you would find ChatGPT generating your own code. So this is a very complementary offering around the mindset of securing the development process that Checkmarx adds together with our AI expertise, AI security expertise.
It just sounds sort of mission critical to me. Look, the whole copyright industry with images and copyrights and books and all that stuff, the authors and musicians have been dealing with this for decades, right? How do you stop people from copying my stuff, right? And now we've gone almost like subsurface, right? Because who really looks at code, and compares it to? I can listen to a song, I can look to another company, a person who sings a song and say, that sounds pretty close to me, You can look at an image, you can, compare the two. But now even, images and copy, as AI smashes these things together, right? You can have a model that has 10 different, models smashed into one, looking like a completely different human. And how do you assess how these things are happening? And I would assume that code is even worse in that, how do you know, my code hasn't been monkeyed around with or is being used in someone else's platform? I mean, what a challenge. If you had to guess, Itamar, do you think that, what percentage of code, I don't know, maybe you can't answer it, but what percentage of code do you think has been developed by companies that you think is outside in the wild that people are leveraging on a daily basis? Others?
I don't have the concrete numbers, but I would imagine that this is at least with 2 digits and probably not starting with 1.
Right, I get it.
Maybe Ori has a better guess.
No, if you're familiar with there is a very famous Stanford research that shows that AI generated code is significantly less secure than human generated code. The numbers, if I remember correctly, that they show there is that on average 14% of code was simply copy pasted before GPT or before AI from Stack Overflow. And now obviously it's average, but I believe that with AI generated code, you will get much more. So this is kind of the data point I have.
It's a significant problem. Look, the reality in this gig economy with developers is a developer could develop from multiple companies at the same time getting 1, 2, 3 different paychecks. I would like to add there. And how do they do this? I mean, if they had to code this by themselves, there's only so many hours in a day, right? And they will find shortcuts. And I would imagine that most companies.
I think the ChatGPT needs a commission from those paychecks.
That's the first thing I would do. Yeah. And the reality is, how as a business owners, right, in the executive suite, how did they know, right, what these developers are creating? And the only stat that I know of, that about half of the apps that people figure out that their company is using are shadow or rogue apps, and they didn't even know how many apps they're using. And so, on one hand, you've got the apps that this is what we're going to use, and maybe there's some level of management and protection in those. But what about all the other apps that humans are using to bypass, right? I mean, it is a crazy problem to solve. What's your thoughts on people using apps that is, just from the wild, let's say? Who wants to answer that, Ori?
No, I can answer, but anyway. So it really reminds me of open source and the open source ecosystem. Okay, because today, like, the risks are there, whether it's the known vulnerabilities, whether it's the malicious part, but you're not going to stop developers from using open source. Okay, and today anything between 80 to 90% of your application in general is open source. And I believe that if not already, in a year or two, a very similar number will be generated by AI. So you still have, you have majority that will be open source, and then the majority will be generated by AI, and then there will be significantly less that is actually being used or written by developers. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying that is a bad thing, because it means that our developers will be able to focus on the business logic and solving business problem, rather than handling all the rest, just like it was with open source libraries a few years ago. So, you can't stop it. The only thing you can do is put the right measures and policies on top of that. Because, as always, developers will find a way, technology will find a way in, no matter what you try to do. And so make sure that you assess the risk and put the right policies in place. That's like my recommendation.
Well, this is a real problem, right? I mean, and a big problem and a growing problem. So I don't even know what the data is looking like for companies who even understand this problem. Let's hope they're beginning. Let's hope this interview helps them to at least start to understand, the problem that we're going to be facing with. I'm going to leave each of you with some last words here, and so I'm going to start with Itamar. What do you want the channel and the community to know about what you guys are bringing to the table?
Mostly that we believe that any company, no matter which industry and vertical, needs to adopt AI. I think it's very healthy to any organization to build and to maintain better stuff more precisely, quicker, etc. So although I'm from the security scene, I'm not against AI and innovation. Exactly the opposite. We just need to find a way to do it right, with the right visibility and enforcement tools, like Ori has mentioned. And of course, prompt, in my opinion, is the ideal way to do so, but not the only option out there. There is a midway most of the organization should walk through. You can adopt it, but you can do it without compromising too much your security posture and data privacy and compliance. So that's the main takeaway that I'd like the channels to take, at least from my perspective.
Good. And Ori?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I tell Checkmarx customers is, just like any other great technology, experiment with your early adopters. Those team. Start small, assess the risks, and then look to tools, such as Checkmarx and Prompt and our joint solution, to help you cover and mitigate and reduce the risks of using, because you want your developers, you want your organization to use those new tools. At the end, it will have a direct impact on revenue, on your business. So you would rather experiment and then scale than block or wait, because your competitors are not waiting. So that's like the one recommendation I have.
Great recommendation. And your website is it checkmark.com?
Correct. And we just launched a brand new checkmarx.com website. So
all right,
take the time to look at it.
We'll take a peek at it.
Congrats.
And your website, Itamar, is it promptsecurity.com?
No, prompt.security.
Prompt.security. There we go. All right. So we'll make sure we put the links and the stuff. Look, to all the folks out there, I mean, AI today is not what's going to be AI tomorrow. All we know, we have no clue what's going to happen in the next year, 2 years. And I'll bet you, if we have a conversation in 2 years or a year from now, we're going to like, what? We didn't know that was going to happen. And to me, as we enter this new era, there's a bunch of humans out there. Luckily, we have humans like people like Ori and Itamar, who is actually looking at the forefront of these AI engines, and how do we put a lid on it? How do we put some guardrails on it? Because if we just go, right, we don't know where we're going. And I don't think we all just want to just go. We want to go, but with some, sense of control. We don't give the kids the keys to the car and just go. We want to make sure they understand some of the rules and regulations. And to me, AI is like we're flying this plane and we're still tweaking the engines and the instruments. And it's not it's not difficult for that plane to have some problems. So we have to steer this thing properly. And if you don't, you do so at your own peril, because what comes out of the end, Air Canada being a great example, there is no excuse. So yeah, check twice, check 3 times, talk to people like Ori and Itamar about what you're doing. Let them help you, put up some guardrails. Because if you just do, you could be in for a shock. So thank you both for sharing the information with me. I think it's critically important. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Julian. Thank you for having us.
It was a pleasure.